Welcome to SI Audiobooks. Please like, share and subscribe for more content. Extended chapter by chapter summary of Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Chapter 1, Before Breakfast. The novel opens on an early morning at the Arable farm. 8-year-old Fern Arable sees her father, Mr. Arable, leaving the house with an axe. She asks her mother, Mrs. Arable, where he is going, and Mrs. Arable explains matter-of-factly that a runt piglet was born the night before, and Mr. Arable intends to kill it because it is too weak to survive. Fern is horrified and runs outside to stop her father, pleading for the piglet's life. She argues that it is unfair to kill a baby animal just because it is small. Mr. Arable, moved by his daughter's passion and sense of justice, ultimately decides to let her raise the pig herself, as long as she takes care of it. Overjoyed, Fern names the pig Wilbur and begins feeding him with a bottle. She treats him like a baby, wrapping him in a blanket and nurturing him with love and care. Extended notes and analysis. Theme of compassion. Fern's determination to save Wilbur introduces the novel's key theme, empathy for all living creatures. Contrast between adults and children. Mr. Arable sees Wilbur as an insignificant farm animal, while Fern views him as a living being deserving of love. Fern's determination. This moment establishes Fern as a strong-willed and kind-hearted character, central to Wilbur's fate. Chapter 2, Wilbur. Wilbur thrives under Fern's loving care, growing healthier each day. However, after 5 weeks, Mr. Arable insists that Wilbur is too big to be kept as a pet. Fern is heartbroken but manages to sell Wilbur for $6 to her uncle Homer Zuckerman, who owns a larger farm nearby. Wilbur is moved to the Zuckerman barn, where he has his own pen near other animals. Although Fern visits him regularly, he begins to feel lonely, as he no longer has her constant companionship. Extended notes and analysis. Wilbur's transition. This marks Wilbur's shift from being a cherished pet to becoming a farm animal, which makes him vulnerable. Isolation and change. Wilbur's growing loneliness foreshadows his need for a new friendship. Foreshadowing. The Zuckermans see Wilbur as livestock, subtly hinting at his fate later in the book. Chapter 3, Escape. Wilbur soon becomes bored and restless in his new home. He enjoys Fern's visits, but he feels lonely when she leaves. One day, he notices that a board in his pen is loose and, in a burst of excitement, he escapes into the barnyard. At first, Wilbur delights in his freedom, running around joyfully. However, chaos ensues as Mr. Zuckerman, Lorvie the farmhand and the animals try to catch him. The goose suggests various escape strategies, but Wilbur is eventually lured back into his pen with food. Realizing that he cannot survive on his own, Wilbur begins to understand his dependence on others. Extended notes and analysis. Theme of freedom versus safety. Wilbur's brief escape represents his desire for independence, but he quickly realizes that he needs the security of the farm. Social hierarchy in the barn. The other animals observe but do little to help or hinder him, highlighting the structured world of the barnyard. Symbolism of the pen. The pen symbolizes both security and confinement, mirroring Wilbur's larger struggle between life and death. Chapter 4, Loneliness. Now confined once again, Wilbur feels deeply lonely. He longs for a friend but struggles to connect with the other animals. The goose, the sheep, and Templeton the rat all have their own lives and are not interested in befriending him. That night, Wilbur hears a mysterious voice speaking to him from the shadows. The voice calmly assures Wilbur that it will be his friend. Excited, Wilbur eagerly awaits morning to see who has spoken to him. Extended notes and analysis. Theme of companionship. Wilbur's longing for friendship emphasizes his vulnerability and emotional needs. Suspense. The mysterious voice builds anticipation, making the reader eager to learn its identity. Templeton's introduction. Templeton's selfish and rude nature is highlighted, showing how different he is from Wilbur. Chapter 5, Charlotte. The next morning, Wilbur finally meets his new friend, Charlotte A. Cavatica, a gray barn spider who lives in the doorway. She is elegant, wise, and confident. Charlotte explains her way of life. She spins webs to catch flies for food. At first, Wilbur is disturbed by this, but Charlotte gently educates him about nature's cycle. Over time, Wilbur grows to admire her intelligence, kindness, and resourcefulness. Extended notes and analysis. Charlotte's name and significance. Cavitica refers to a real species of barn spider, Oranius caviticus, grounding her character in realism. Contrast between Wilbur and Charlotte. Wilbur is innocent and naive, while Charlotte is wise and practical. Theme of life and death. Charlotte's survival method introduces the harsh realities of nature, a key theme in the novel. Chapter 6, Summer Days. Summer arrives, and life in the barnyard settles into a peaceful rhythm. The goose hatches her eggs, Templeton steals an unhatched egg, and Fern spends hours sitting on a milk stool, listening to the animals talk. Wilbur enjoys Charlotte's company, and the barn becomes a comforting home for him. Extended notes and analysis. Fern's role as an observer. Fern's fascination with the animals suggests that she sees them differently from the adults. Templeton's opportunistic nature. His hoarding and selfishness will play an important role later. Chapter 7, Bad News. One day, the old sheep tells Wilbur the terrible truth: he is being fattened up for slaughter. Wilbur is devastated and cries out in fear. Charlotte, however, calmly reassures Wilbur, telling him that she has a plan to save him. Extended notes and analysis. Mortality and fear. Wilbur's realization of his impending death introduces the central conflict of the novel. Charlotte's role as protector. Her promise to save Wilbur sets the main plot into motion. Chapter 8, A Talk at Home. Fern tells her mother that the animals talk and have personalities, but Mrs. Arable grows concerned. She begins to wonder if Fern is spending too much time at the barn and if it is normal for a child to believe animals can talk. Extended notes and analysis. Contrast between adults and children. Mrs. Arable dismisses Fern's stories, reinforcing the idea that adults lose touch with the magic of childhood. Dr. Dorian's role, foreshadowing later in the book, Drive. Dorian will discuss Fern's imagination and perception of the world. Chapter 9, Wilbur's Boast. Wilbur, feeling hopeful after Charlotte's promise to save him, becomes overconfident and starts boasting. He claims that he can do anything Charlotte can, including spinning a web. Encouraged by his own enthusiasm, he attempts to spin a web by jumping into the air and blowing out silk which he doesn't have. He falls flat on his face. The other animals, particularly the goose and the sheep, watch with amusement as Wilbur realizes that pigs simply cannot spin webs. Charlotte gently explains that web spinning is something only spiders can do, and Wilbur accepts his limitations. Extended notes and analysis. Wilbur's naivete. This moment reinforces his childlike innocence and eagerness to impress Charlotte. Charlotte's wisdom. Instead of mocking Wilbur, Charlotte patiently teaches him about reality. Theme of individual strengths. Wilbur learns that everyone has unique abilities, foreshadowing how Charlotte will use hers to help him. Chapter 10, An Explosion. One day, Templeton the rat rolls a rotten goose egg into the corner of the barn. The oldest sheep warns Templeton that if the egg ever breaks, it will fill the barn with an unbearable stench. Meanwhile, Charlotte is deep in thought, trying to come up with a plan to save Wilbur. She realizes that people will only spare Wilbur if they believe he is special or extraordinary. Extended notes and analysis. Templeton's greed. His hoarding of the egg highlights his selfish and opportunistic nature. Foreshadowing of Charlotte's plan. Charlotte understands that humans are driven by perception and spectacle, hinting at her upcoming plan. Symbolism of the rotten egg. The egg represents danger and decay, reminding us of Wilbur's precarious fate. Chapter 11, The Miracle. Charlotte devises a brilliant plan. She will weave words into her web to make Wilbur seem extraordinary. Early one morning, when Lorvie enters the barn, he gasps in shock. He sees Charlotte's web above Wilbur's pen, and in the center of the web, she has spun the words. Some pig. Lorvie runs to tell Mr. Zuckerman, who is astonished. Soon, the entire town hears about the miracle, and people begin to visit Wilbur. Extended notes and analysis. Theme of perception. Wilbur hasn't changed, but humans now see him as valuable because of Charlotte's trick. Religious symbolism. The miracle mimics how people react to divine signs. Power of words. Charlotte understands that words shape reality, a major theme in the novel. Chapter 12, A Meeting. The barn animals hold a meeting to discuss what other words Charlotte should use. The goose, sheep, and even Templeton offer ideas, but Charlotte is careful in choosing words that will impress humans. Charlotte asks Templeton to help her by collecting words from newspapers, and though he is reluctant, he agrees. Extended notes and analysis. Templeton's growing role. Though selfish, Templeton's knowledge becomes useful. Collective effort. The animals work together to save Wilbur, showing unity. Chapter 13. Good progress. Charlotte decides on the next word. Terrific. She weaves it into her web, and once again, the humans are amazed. More visitors arrive to see Wilbur, believing him to be truly special. Meanwhile, Wilbur is happier than ever. He starts to believe he really is terrific and behaves accordingly. Extended notes and analysis. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Wilbur begins living up to the words, demonstrating the influence of positive reinforcement. Charlotte's intelligence. She manipulates human behavior using psychology and persuasion. Chapter 14. Drive. Dorian. Mrs. Arable becomes worried about Fern because she spends so much time talking about animals. She takes Fern to visit Dr. Dorian, a local physician. Dr. Dorian listens to Fern's stories and doesn't dismiss them. He suggests that perhaps animals do talk, but adults have lost the ability to hear them. Extended notes and analysis. Childhood versus adulthood. Drive. Dorian acknowledges that children see the world differently than adults. Theme of imagination versus reality. The novel suggests that Fern's perspective is not necessarily wrong, just different. Chapter 15. The crickets. Summer begins to fade into autumn, and the crickets start singing. Their song reminds the animals that time is passing, and change is coming. Charlotte reveals that she is laying eggs, and Wilbur is delighted, until he realizes that Charlotte won't live much longer. Extended notes and analysis. Symbolism of the crickets. The changing seasons represent the cycle of life and death. Wilbur's realization. He begins to understand the impermanence of life. Chapter 16. Off to the fair. Wilbur is taken to the county fair, where he will be judged in a competition. The animals are hopeful that this will further prove his importance. Charlotte decides to come along even though she is weak, and Templeton tags along to find leftover food. Extended notes and analysis. Final opportunity for Wilbur. The fair is his last chance to prove his worth. Charlotte's dedication. Despite her exhaustion, she continues helping Wilbur. Chapter 17. Uncle. At the fair, Wilbur sees another pig named Uncle, a huge, strong pig who seems more likely to win. Wilbur panics, fearing that he won't be impressive enough. Charlotte comforts Wilbur and promises to create one more word in her web. Extended notes and analysis. Wilbur's insecurity. Even with Charlotte's help, he doubts himself. Charlotte's last effort. She is running out of strength, yet she still puts Wilbur first. Chapter 18. The cool of the evening. Charlotte weaves her final word. Humble. This word convinces people that Wilbur is a truly special pig. Extended notes and analysis. Irony of humble. The word implies modesty, yet Wilbur is being put on a pedestal. Charlotte's final gift. This is her last major act before she weakens further. Chapter 19. The egg sack. Charlotte lays her egg sack, containing hundreds of future spiders. She is exhausted but fulfilled, knowing her legacy will continue. Extended notes and analysis. Theme of life and death. Charlotte's life is ending, but her children will live on. Sacrifice and love. Charlotte's actions were never for herself, only for Wilbur. Chapter 20. The hour of triumph. Wilbur wins a special prize, ensuring that he will never be slaughtered. However, Charlotte is too weak to return home. Wilbur carries her egg sack in his mouth, vowing to protect her children. Extended notes and analysis. Bittersweet victory. Wilbur is saved, but loses Charlotte in the process. Wilbur's maturity. He now understands selflessness and responsibility. Chapter 21. Last words. Charlotte, alone in the fairgrounds, peacefully dies. Extended notes and analysis. Tragic but beautiful. Charlotte's death is gentle and natural, emphasizing the cycle of life. Chapter 22. A warm wind. Wilbur raises Charlotte's children, but only 3 stay. He names them Joy, Nellie, and Urania, and life in the barn continues. Though he misses Charlotte, Wilbur knows she lives on through her children. Final thoughts. Legacy and change. Wilbur learns to move forward while treasuring Charlotte's memory. Hope and renewal. Though life ends, new life always begins. Thanks for listening SI Audiobooks.